In a genuine republic, the will of the government is dependent on the will of the society, and the will of the society is dependent on the reason of the society. In Federalist 51, for example, James Madison claimed that the extent and structure of the government of the United States on the will of the society. In the distribution of wealth, America is more unequal than most European countries. The richest tenth of the population earns nearly 6 times more than the poorest tenth. In Germany and France, the ratio is just over 3 to 1. The United States also has the largest proportion of its people in long-term poverty. In the Middle Ages, the design and use of flags have considered a means of identifying social status. Flags were, therefore, the symbols not of nations, but of the nobility. The design of each flag resembled the devices on the noble's coat of arms, and the size of the flag was an indication of how high the owner stood in the nobility. In the past, naming English as a separate subject seemed relatively easy. The textbook selected and graded items of language which were put into content and then practices intensively. New items were carefully controlled so that the student could cope quite easily. Now that English is used as a medium of instruction, however, all this has changed. Unknown items of grammar and vocabulary appear in texts which attempt to explain new and often difficult information. In the second quarter of the 19th century, a rapidly growing middle class created a great demand for furniture production. Yet at this stage, while machines were used for certain jobs, such as carved decoration, there was no real mass production. The extra demand was met by numerous woodworkers. Mass production came later and the quality of domestic furniture declined. It is important to note that saving is not the same as investment. Saving is about cash, while investment is about the real product. The difference is important because money, being liquid, can leak out of the economic system, which it does when someone who is putting aside unspent income keeps it under the mattress. IT may well change the way you live, yet again. Welcome to the world mobile commerce, where your handheld device, be it a mobile phone, a personal digital assistant, PDA, or any other wireless application will soon be used for commercial transactions. Skeptical? Consider these facts. In Japan, mobile phone are used for location-based services where the mobile service provider ties up with a host of other players such as restaurants, car rental companies, etc. Just think about your id. You think you can imagine that any of this shit would let down, and then is this good because it's that good and I am just proud to be working with these guys, and you know songs of earth profound in a way because you are connecting with man, and then you find out that you have more in common with humanity. Then everybody is more alike than they are. Market research is a vital part of the planning of any business. However, experienced you or your staff may be in a particular field. If you are thinking of introducing a service to a new area, it is important to find out what the local population thinks about it first. Moods may also have an effect on how information is processed, by influencing the extent to which judges rely on pre-existing, internal information, or focus on new, external information. Positive moods recruit more stimulus-driven and bottom-up processing. Most succulent plants are found in regions where there is little rainfall, dry air, plenty of sunshine, porous soils and high temperatures during part of the year. These conditions have caused changes in plant structures, which have resulted in the greatly increased thickness of stems, leaves and sometimes roots, enabling them to store moisture from the infrequent rains. NASA's spacecraft recently detected organic-rich areas on Mars. Scientists evaluated the geology of the regions to conclude that the organics are most likely native to the dwarf planet. Data from the spacecraft suggest that the interior of Mars is the source of these organic materials, as opposed to arriving via impacting asteroids or comets. Not a lot is known about how the transportation of goods by water first began. Large cargo boats were being used in some parts of the world up to 5,000 years ago. However, sea trade became more widespread when large sailing boats traveled between ports, carrying spices, perfumes and objects made by hand. Not only in Glasgow, I think these challenges are everywhere. Weather is becoming very unpredictable everywhere actually. There is a whole shift in the way things are happening everywhere and that applies all over the globe. Like you said, can meditation do anything about them? And the answer is no. Meditation can't do anything about the weather, but yes, meditation can change my mindset about the weather. Over millions of years, retroviruses have been incorporated into our human DNA, where they today make up almost 10% of the total genome. A research group has now discovered a mechanism through which these retroviruses may have an impact on gene expression. This means that they may have played a significant role in the development of the human brain as well as in various neurological diseases. Pattern formation in physical, biological, and sociological systems has been studied for many years. Despite the fact that these subject areas are completely diverse, the mathematics that describes underlying patterns in these systems can be surprisingly similar. Mathematical tools can be used to study such systems and predict their patterns. Pluto was one of the 9 planets recognized to our solar system. But in 2021, it was relegated to the official status of dwarf planet by the International Astronomical Union, IAU. It will bring into clear focus once more what is, and what isn't, meant by the term planet. Rees took a stab at settling the argument with a meta-analysis, a study of studies on whether people can really perceive better than CD quality sound. He analyzed data from 18 studies, including more than 400 participants and nearly 13,000 listening tests. Overall, listeners picked out the better than CD quality track 52.3% of the time. Statistically significant, if not all that impressive. Researchers gathered 160 uncaffeinated adults, people who consumed less than 500 milligrams of caffeine a week. These decaf subjects looked at pictures of various objects, then took either a placebo or a pill containing 200 milligrams of caffeine. That's roughly the amount you'd get from 2 cups of coffee. Reserve requirements are the proportions of the deposits that banks must keep on hand and are not allowed to lend out. For example, if the reserve requirement is 10% and you deposit $100 in a bank, the bank can lend $90 of that $100 to someone else. But it is not allowed to lend the remaining $10. Scientists have presented a prototype for a 3D bioprinter that can create totally functional human skin. This skin is adequate for transplanting to patients or for use in research or the testing of cosmetic, chemical, and pharmaceutical products. This new human skin is one of the first living human organs created using bioprinting to be introduced to the marketplace. It replicates the natural structure of the skin, with a first external layer. Scientists have witnessed a massive object with the makeup of a comet being ripped apart and scattered in the atmosphere of a white dwarf, the burned-out remains of a compact star. The object has a chemical composition similar to Halley's Comet, but it is 100,000 times more massive and has a much higher amount of water. It is also rich in the elements essential for life, including nitrogen, carbon, oxygen, and sulfur. Scientists monitored each item's energy, print time and plastic use to determine its costs, then conducted a savings analysis on a per-item basis. For each item printed, from mounts for GoPro cameras to analyze tools, they ran high-cost and low-cost comparisons. For example, for a printed cell phone case, the total cost of printing was compared with the purchase cost of both a high-end phone case and the least expensive model available. Shadows that are in plain view yet hidden, waiting to pounce on fear. Crawling silently among us, releasing poisons of deceit and hatred for purity. Shadows that saw and grow in power. It's chaos on phone and consumes the world. The worst nightmares haunt us where we feel safest at home. Since Plato, philosophers have described the decision-making process as either rational or emotional. We carefully deliberate or we blink and go with our gut. But as scientists break open the mind's black box with the latest tools of neuroscience, they're discovering that this is not how the mind works. Our best decisions are a finely tuned blend of both feeling and reason, and the precise mix depends on the situation.